Midoriya!
Uraraka chimed, waving her hand in search of Midoriya's attention. The boy snapped his head up that was once dug deep into his journal.
Yes?
He exclaimed, slamming his journal shut, in which made a sharp slapping sound.
You were so into writing, I didn't think I was ever going to get your attention.
She smiled, in a chagrined manner. Midoriya chuckled, in a force-like response. He couldn't find any words to say, as his eyes awkwardly shifted to the other students across the room, surrounding your desk, asking you questions.
You know, they're never going to notice you if you only stare at them from the distance,
Uraraka exclaimed, crossing her arms firmly.
What?
Midoriya jumped at her statement. The class drew silent and peered their heads towards his direction. His cheeks grew into a reddish cherry shade as he slowly sunk into his desk in embarrassment. Quickly afterwards, everyone proceeded with whatever it was they were doing. Midoriya chucked his head in Uraraka's direction, whispering sharply.
What did you mean by that?
He questioned, loud enough for only her to hear. She giggled, covering her mouth.
It's so obvious. Seriously.
You're being weird. I don't even know them that well.
Midoriya slouched, turning his head in your direction as he did so.
I can help you talk to them if you want,
Uraraka happily implied, leaning closer to the embarrassed, flustered boy.
You what?
He tilted his head in confusion. Help him? As in, to talk to you? There was no way he could agree to such a thing. If he wanted, he could easily muster up his own courage to talk to you himself, but he knew that he would be a stuttering mess, and only leave himself in more embarrassment than he already was in.
I could,
Uraraka furrowed her eyebrows and tapped her chin lightly with her finger, figuring out a way to help Midoriya strike up a conversation with you.
I could accidentally bump into them, knocking out their textbooks out of their arms, and then you can come in and help them pick them up. And then you save the day and ask them how their day is going, ask them if you want to go grab a bite to eat with them.
She beamed, continuing explaining the possible series of events that could occur if only Midoriya would agree to do so. Midoriya scratched the nape of his neck.
Uraraka?
I got it! This weekend I could invite them, you, and a few others to my house and have a study date. And you get to know them more.
She excitedly clapped her hands, feeling quite astonished and accomplished with herself for coming up with such a genius plan. Midoriya nervously waved his hand, attempting to shut down her idea.
I'm not sure about this, Uraraka.
Study date? Was once again interrupted, yet this time by a nosy Kirishima. Hey, mind if I join? I've really got to get my ducks in a row before the final exams. This could really help me, Kirishima pleaded, as Uraraka rubbed her elbows, eventually giving in to the redhead's plea.
Yeah, sure.
She nodded, giving Kirishima a thumbs up.
Hey, did someone say study date?
Mina turned her attention from you to Kirishima, as Kirishima nodded vigorously. Yeah, Uraraka is having a study date at her place this weekend. Midoriya once again sank into his desk.
Oh, there's no way I'm getting out of this one,
he mentally complained to himself.
Yeah.
Uraraka gleamed.
You're all welcome, if you'd like. Aoyama, Momo, Mina.
She listed on and on. Midoriya's heart stopped at the mention of you. He was so average. And well, you were beyond that. He didn't even want to talk to you because he didn't want to make a fool out of himself. What if he did talk to you? Would you think you were better than him and just ignore him? Did you already like someone else? What if you already had a cooler, older partner that nobody knew about? What if you were not even a real person and you were just a robot who secretly was a villain and is eventually going to take over the city?
I'd love to go.
Your voice completely snapped Midoriya out of his rambling thoughts, peering into your direction.
I could use the extra study. These exams aren't going to be easy.
You nodded, firmly towards Uraraka, whose face was beaming with joy.
Yeah! See you then!
Uraraka waved, immediately facing Midoriya afterwards.
Now you have to come. They're definitely going to be there,
she whispered. Midoriya was completely at a loss for words.
Can we talk privately?
The pair walked outside of the classroom. Before Midoriya could even speak, Uraraka immediately began.
Don't worry about it, Midoriya. It's just a study date. You don't have to do anything you're uncomfortable with.
She patted his shoulder, while he sighed in relief.
Like, I know you're trying to help me with them, but it's not that simple. And I really appreciate your help. I do,
he exclaimed as his face fell into a frown.
It's just impossible for them to be into someone like me. You know?
He muttered, dipping his head in embarrassment.
You haven't even given it a chance. You never know. They could find you really cute,
Uraraka explained a little too loudly. From the corner of the hallway, Bakugo approached the pair, walking towards them only to enter the classroom.
Kacchan?
Midoriya nearly screamed, realizing the spiky blonde-haired boy may have heard everything he and Uraraka were talking about.
Them, huh?
Bakugo lifted his chin, only to reveal a deathly grin.
Huh? Where did you even come from?
Uraraka questioned, clenching her fists. She was not about to put up with Bakugo and his childlike antics.
I had to take a piss,
he replied bluntly, turning his head back to Midoriya's direction, who was trembling at this point.
And you're right, Deku. It's impossible for someone like them to ever be into someone like you.
Bakugo leaned into Midoriya's face, giving him a long and cold stare.
Just drop whatever fantasies you have about them. It's pathetic.
He soon turned towards Uraraka, chuckling.
And you're in on this? Helping this dumbass get with someone who's clearly way out of his league?
He shook his head, slowly walking back towards the classroom.
You're wrong!
Midoriya shouted, surprising himself. He was used to Bakugo's hurtful words, his childish banter. But this was different. Bakugo was talking about someone Midoriya had strong feelings for, even though Midoriya would never admit it, even though they've hardly spoken in the past. Midoriya, being an extremely observant person, had gotten to know you through your mannerisms, the way you acted around others, and with yourself, by just observing you throughout the long hours of class. Bakugo snapped his head in surprise, due to Midoriya's unusual backtalk. The ash-blonde boy towered over him, attempting to threaten Midoriya with their height difference.
What was that? Huh? Deku?
Bakugo's voice was the deepest it's ever been. Midoriya stepped a few feet behind him, trying to give himself space, Midoriya stayed silent just to avoid getting pushed or punched in the jaw from the boy hovering over him. He looked up at Bakugo with his chin dipped to his chest. Midoriya opened his mouth to explain himself.
That's what I thought.
Bakugo spat. He rolled his eyes and turned towards the classroom door, entering the room. Uraraka and Midoriya fell silent. They didn't even know what to say to each other at this point. Bakugo simply left them at a loss for words due to his harsh ones. Midoriya looked up at Uraraka, who was already staring back at him, with a tense and concerned expression on her face. Uraraka began, holding her hands together tightly behind her back.
This is stupid. I knew this whole idea would be stupid,
Midoriya stated, his heart sinking as he realized Uraraka lightly winced at his words.
No, not you. I mean, Kacchan. He sure knows how to tear my confidence.
Midoriya tried to lighten the mood by chuckling at his last remark, which wasn't intended to be funny at all.
We'll show him. Once you win them over, he'll regret he ever said those mean words to you.
Uraraka gripped onto Midoriya's shoulders, which took him by surprise. He only gave her a firm nod, not wanting to speak any further on the matter.
We should go back in before Aizawa notices we're gone,
he stated, opening the door slowly for Uraraka to enter before him. Uraraka agreed and walked into the classroom, Midoriya following suit. The words that Bakugo spat at him couldn't stop replaying throughout his mind.
It's impossible for someone like them to ever be into someone like you.
Midoriya was already aware of the fact it was impossible for him to win you over. This was old news to him. However, for Midoriya to listen to someone verbally say it to his face like that broke him. His heart sank deeper for each time he replayed those words throughout his mind. He knew Uraraka was trying her best to be a good friend and encourage him to speak to you, but he couldn't help but feel annoyed with the whole idea of even trying to talk to you. Bakugo was right. You would never be into someone like him. Why even attempt? It would be useless. But because he knew deep down Uraraka went through the trouble of inviting their classmates over to her home for a study date, Midoriya felt obliged to at least attend to that. After all, she did say he didn't have to do anything he was uncomfortable with. And after all, they were just studying. That was the only reason you were going to Uraraka's house in the first place. Nothing more, nothing less. A study date.